Okay, I'll get going. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Helen Smith. I am a Microsoft Partner Success Manager here in the UK, but I also have the absolute privilege of being our one commercial partner accessibility lead. So I work with our partner ecosystem and help them to make sure that we're getting out the message around all the wonderful accessibility features that sit within inside Microsoft technology so that we can support as many people as we possibly can. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey today. I'm going to give you a bit of a personal story as to why this is, so embedded into everything that I want to achieve with our partners, but also kind of why it's not only a human imperative, but a business imperative to think about digital inclusion in general. So I'll get us kicked off, and I'm going to start by introducing you to the little monkey in my life. So this is my son. This is Leo, aka Bug, aka Bill. He goes by many other names as well, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this cheeky chappy. So first of all, Leo is 8 years old. However, if you haven't heard yet, I'd be surprised because he's told everyone Leo will be turning 9 on Monday. But Leo is a typical little boy. You know, he loves all things dinosaurs. He's obsessed with Minecraft, absolutely obsessed. I told him I designed it here at Microsoft as well, just to give myself a little bit more credit, which is a complete lie, but he goes along with it. Maths as well. Leo loves solving problems, and maths for him is right up there in his favourite subjects. And Lego, he's so creative, and the things that he can build and how he follows these, in these instruction menus through the pictures, it's just incredible. And then finally there, the reason that Leo feels he was put on this earth is to do anything he possibly can to annoy his 16-year-old sister. But with everybody, there are things Leo likes and there are things Leo doesn't like. And unfortunately for Leo, those things are reading and writing. And why? Because they're hard, So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of insight into learning experiences for Leo. So many of you will be familiar with the characters on the page here, Biff, Chip and Kipper. And this is the kind of book that Leo will bring home from school. One day he brought home his book, and he also brought home a blue piece of plastic from his teachers. And I was asked to please try to see how Leo learns and see if his reading would improve and pick up with this blue piece of plastic popped over here. Now, I want you to think about a person with dyslexia. So black writing on a white background really isn't ideal. And I always kind of put Leo's learning and his I thought he didn't like reading and writing just because he was a boy, he'd rather be in the garden and so on. But we had this opportunity to put this blue piece of plastic on this paper, and the words that came out of his mouth will stick with me forever. And he said, "Mummy, why have the letters stopped jumping around?" So a huge moment, as you can imagine, for any parent. But we didn't sit and rest on it. We worked to see how we could improve that experience for Leo. So I did what all self-respecting Microsoft people would do, and we took his learning into the cloud. So using Office Lens, I was able to take a snapshot of the page for Leo of his reading book, and I was able to transport that into our OneNote learning tools to give Leo a new experience. So by doing that, what he's been enabled to do is actually have this blue background to help support him on his journey, but a number of other things as well. So just an example, we can break down the words into syllables with a click of a button. So just by highlighting the text and clicking on a button, simply he could break that down. Not only that, if he right clicks on some of the words, so key as an example, if he was having a problem, he could right click and an image of a key would come up. Now, Leo's been using this for a long time now, and his reading has improved dramatically, and it's something I'm always grateful for. Now, he hasn't actually been diagnosed as yet with dyslexia, either way, his confidence has been helped hugely, and he's become an independent learner. He doesn't feel different. He uses the tools that are available to him. So I just wanted to share that as kind of for you, just one of the very simple things that we can do with technology to help and to enable and to empower. But what it has left me with is this further passion now to really see how we can all work together to make sure that when Leo does get to university, when he gets into the working environment, that he's going into an environment that will support him and empower him to be all that he can be. So I will move on. And let's take a little bit of a look at the status of where things lie and actually what things look like out there at the moment. So just a couple of facts for you to set the scene. This one I always find very interesting, but the percentage of people not currently telling their employers about a disability is actually 70%. So that's huge. So we've got a culture piece of work there to do to kind of make people more comfortable to come and be their authentic selves. The autism unemployment rate, this always astounds me, but that's currently at 80%. 80%. Think about the superpowers of people, a person who has autism. We have actually some of our best coders in the IT industry somewhere on the spectrum. So this one, number of people in the UK we believe to be colourblind. 3 million. We know that statistic is higher in men, but it's also there for women as well. And this is something that, I thought people are quite comfortable about speaking about, but actually I found that many people do have a colour blindness and aren't actually open about that fact. But there's really simple things that we can do that we'll talk about later to really help and support those. And then there we have the last one, which, as I just mentioned, close to my heart, but the percentage of UK people with some degree of dyslexia is around 10%. So that's 1 in 10 people. So think about, your family, think about your working environment. 1 in 10 people in there probably do with some additional support. So the other thing that we need to think about, 70% of disabilities are invisible. Now, these slides were made well before the COVID situation. So think about that. 70% has probably now risen dramatically. We don't always have those visible indicators that are people to show us. So we really need to make sure that we are always aware and never assuming in these situations. And also, when we think about accessibility, it doesn't just mean a permanent disability. This is something that can impact every single one of us in our daily lives. We've got temporary disabilities. Think about people who I've got a colleague who came off their bike and broke their arm, and suddenly they had new requirements from their environment to support them in their working day. But also just situational. We all have times where we're not able to use both hands, or it may be that you're on a noisy train and suddenly you can't actually hear as well as that you would in another situation. So again, when we think about accessibility and we think about disability, it's really important that we're not putting it into that bucket of something someone is born with. This is something that can affect all of us and will affect all of us in our everyday lives at some point. And when we think about kind of what the levels are, this is a huge, we don't want to put anyone into a box, but the way that we're looking at it and approaching it is on these key pillars at the moment from a Microsoft perspective. So we think about visual, we think about hearing, we think about cognitive, speech, mobility, and neural as well. And neural actually is one of those that probably we need to work on, as a collective. That's something that we need to focus on a little bit more, especially from a digital inclusion perspective. And I love this. This for me is a game changer. So one of the really important things that the World Health Organization have redefined is what is a disability. So in previous years, people would think it's the person, it was the person's problem that they were not able to do something. But actually, when we start to change that concept around, if disability is actually the mismatched human interactions, if it's the environment that's not supporting what a person wants to achieve, suddenly we've got a really fixable situation. And this is where all of us have a role to play, but the role of technology actually comes through stronger than ever. So here at Microsoft, just to take you on that side of things as to what we're doing, this is being led from the top. So accessibility is absolutely a Microsoft priority, and that's coming all the way from Satya. And the commitment isn't going away. This is something that is going to be part of everything that we do. And he's also a parent of a child who has disabilities, and he's a great role model in kind of pushing that out and helping and making sure that we always have that in mind in everything that we do from a product perspective, and from a culture perspective as well. So one thing that you may or may not be aware of, but as a mission and as a mission statement from Microsoft, that's to empower every person on the planet to achieve more. That includes the 1 billion people with disabilities. So when we think again about technology and what is the role that we can play here, we need to think about what actually accessibility is from a digital inclusion perspective. So it's the cloud, it's how people access the cloud. It's the consumption piece as well. We do need to think about how people are using the technology. And actually, for some people, what we're seeing more and more is that they're not using technology because they feel it's a blocker. So very simple things that can be done, and some of those things I'll share with you to really help drive that consumption. It's about AI, it's about compliance, productivity, it's design. It's an inclusive classroom. It's enabling children in a room to be able to be empowered to be part of a conversation and to learn in their own way. But it's also culture, and culture is absolutely where it needs to start in every single organisation. So I'm just going to take you through how we're looking at that at the moment. So we're actually taking a really integrated approach into inclusion. So we're starting from that beginning in culture. Part of that is hiring talent from that pool. Okay, we're looking at all these wonderful ways that we can bring people in. So we have an autism hiring program here that's absolutely key to us. We're looking at actually, a person with dyslexia, the superpowers within those people, the creativity skills that they have. We're looking at how people with OCD, and that attention to detail is such a crucial thing to our business. So that's absolutely where it would start. But then that just carries on and filters through. So it's part of our systems. We're making sure that inclusion is coming from the very start of everything that we do. It's being built into all of our products, and what we don't want is to have accessibility tools as a bolt-on. We want them to be part of absolutely everything that we're making, and really part of that design. And then the really exciting bit as well, we're really investing into the future and innovation to change what's possible. So even some amazing things coming out these days, working with partners who are building bots as an example, sitting in teams with almost like a shoulder to go to for any questions that you have around how to use the tools from an accessibility and inclusion perspective that we have. But it's endless, and I could talk about that one for hours. And this is the really important, when we think about how inclusion drives innovation for absolutely everyone, and when we do think about it at the beginning, there's some really good stories that come off the back of that. So when you just think about a straw, I don't think there's anyone on this call that has not used a straw, but a straw was built actually because of demand from hospitals who needed it for their less mobile patients to be able to drink. So that came from there, but that's now something that we all use from an accessibility perspective. We look about how products are designed to be able to hold them. Actually, that helping one helps many. So it could be even age that is affecting the grip on the tools there. Subtitles, again, subtitles were created for the disability market, but when we think about how often we use them, I have them on all the time. Or think about even being in a noisy bar or restaurant and the football's on the telly, you always see those subtitles up there. So these things that have been built with accessibility in mind are for everyone, and dictate as well. It's a huge one. I use dictate all the time when I'm busy. It could even be, from a personal perspective, that I want to send someone a message. I'm folding up washing and I'm speaking through my phone for it to dictate what I want to say across. So that's really important to remember. So as soon as we start bringing people in at the part of that culture piece and that inclusion piece, then suddenly we've got innovation for absolutely everyone. And I love this image, because this is where we're kind of changing. This is where the world's changing. In the past, you had to adapt to the world, but in the future, the world will adapt to you. And this staircase is a really good representative of that. This is here. It's been recreated from design. It enables a wheelchair user, someone pushing a buggy, all of these things. This is helpful to everyone, and it's beautiful. And it's a really amazing, actually. It always reminds me of a story. It was about a year and a half ago. I actually went to visit a customer and I asked them what they were doing around accessibility, and the response I got was that they had a wheelchair ramp. And sadly, that was as far as they'd taken that journey. But that always reminds me, how far we need to come, and actually the changes that we make can be there for everyone and for all. So yes, love that image. But we also need to think about accessibility as well, and how it's an imperative for all organisation, and it's a business imperative as well. So when we think about actually for yourselves and your organisations, investing into things like accessibility will attract the future workforce. So as you can see there, millennials will represent 75% of the global workforce by 2025. That's not long to go at all. And, we're now seeing as well, there's always going to be priorities and financial and flexibility, but we're really seeing diversity and disability and inclusion being top of their list now. So there's a real key change in that market, in that talent pool that you'd like to attract. And this is a really good point as well. So there's a number of different reports. One of the reports that we look at about why digital inclusion is so important is actually one that was built by Accenture. And they looked, I think it was 45 companies over a 4-year period. But those partners who were those customers who were actually putting accessibility in as part of their business plan and as an imperative have seen, huge growth from a revenue perspective and income perspective, and margins as well. One thing that we're not shying away for is that the disability market is a market that wants to be addressed. And to give you an idea of how huge that market is at the moment, it's estimated that it's £2.25 trillion globally. Yet only 10% of businesses actually have a targeted plan to address disability, which is always a shocker. And when we think about that from a UK perspective, we believe it to be something around £249 billion per annum, and that's actually rising now on average 14% every year. So if you are not thinking about how important accessibility is, this really kind of does show from a business perspective as much as a human imperative. This is an important place to put more focus into. One thing I just wanted to really briefly touch upon as well from this perspective is, obviously this is something that's the demand is growing, but it's great to see actually that there's new UK regulations as well that are actually demanding accessibility. I'm not a licensing expert in any way, shape or form, but one thing I did want to flag to those within any public sector organisations or commercial is that within our Microsoft website, which I'll share the link for you for accessibility, we actually have conformance reports that align to every single one of our products that you can go in and pull out, so you can see how our Microsoft products do align into these regulations as well. So I'll share that a bit later on. But ultimately, what we need to consider is, if you're not designing for accessibility and inclusion, you really are turning away possibly 1 in 5 potential customers, and that's absolutely huge. So that's one of our customer case studies that's come off the back of from TD Bank in Canada. So I wanted to have a little bit of a look through with you on some of these tools and lovely features and functionality that we speak of. And, these are all things that Visual will be able to help you with as well. We really rely on our wonderful partners to help get these out, so any support. But let's have a quick look. So I mentioned the learning tools solution with you earlier on. So that's actually now going across all of our products. So you can now use Immersive Reader, as you can see, even in Teams. And it's very, very simple there, a click of a button, and suddenly you can have that same learning experience that I've spoken to you about that I use for my son. So think about that in a education environment, thinking about it in a modern working environment. This is a really key tool that can be taken now anyway and anyhow. I love that one. Another one as well for you is live captions and subtitles in PowerPoint. I'm going to apologise. We've had a technical fault this morning, otherwise you would have had those captions running across on there, but I'm happy to send notes to anyone that might need them. But PowerPoint now has subtitles and captions built in, and not only that, that can also be picked up and translated into 60+ languages as well. So this is a great solution. We see many of our global customers using this now across the board, so they can support multiple different countries and languages within one presentation. So that's a really big one. PowerPoint Designer. If you haven't seen PowerPoint Designer as yet, this is the best gift that I'm going to give to you today, because this is a game changer. If you're like me and really struggle with building presentations, PowerPoint Designer is a great solution where you can literally pop in the photos, pop in the narrative that you want on a slide. Design ideas will then beautifully, by the click of the button, give you some options of some great views of what that could actually look like. You can see here in the example of what they're doing. I use this every single day. It's a game changer. And yet again, this is another great example of where this was actually created by someone in Microsoft who had a muscular disease and needed less clicks to a better presentation. So built with accessibility in mind, but a solution for all. So I love that one. So please go and take a look at that one when you get the opportunity. And our ease of access settings as well. These are really good to be aware of if you haven't looked at them already. So just within, oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Here we go. Just within the general panel there, you can actually go into our ease of access settings. So we've even got colour filters in there. We talked about those statistics earlier on colour blindness. Now, a great example of this is actually a personal one I've had with a colleague. Many people who have a colour blindness situation, they really, really struggle to see the difference with red and green being the most common. And if you're a business, like Microsoft, we're still on this journey, but we tend to use things like RAG systems, that red, amber and green, but actually that's really, really hard for someone in that situation to be able to read the difference. And we pop scorecards up all the time, but that doesn't actually mean anything. So you're already kind of excluding someone from a conversation or from a presentation or from amount of data. So making sure that all of your employees are really aware of how simple it is to go make a difference in here is huge. So it's been a real game changer for this particular colleague that I've been working with. Such a small things, but to fix, it's but life-changing, absolutely life-changing. So please go and take a look at those as well. And finally on here, the accessibility checker is one that I wanted to pull out. So this is built into all of our solutions as well, across Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook, Visio. This is something that we really want to see just become normality. Like you would spell check, we should be accessibility checking. So that would then help people who are using screen readers as an example in your documents. Sorry, jumping ahead again. It's very simple. So just as you would spell check, just go in there and do an accessibility check. as well on the documents that you're creating. Another piece in here as well is just to make you aware that, you know, through all of these wonderful technologies that you'll have available to you, we do have also a disability answer desk for you as well for any customer support. So it's 24/7 support for any questions around accessibility or assistive technology or any of the products that we have or any issues that might arise. So please make sure that this is something that you and your people are aware of, that there is the support there at any time. And then I just wanted to, as I come to the end, just give you some pointers of some next actions. You know, we are all on this journey. Microsoft are on this journey, Visual are on this journey. But something that we have done, both Microsoft and Visual, is sign up to be a disability confident organisation. So this is a government-run initiative to support you on not only kind of actively recruiting the talent, but actually how to support that talent within your business going forward. And this is something actually we've put into our Microsoft Partner Pledge. So we ask all of our partners to commit to becoming disability confident, but it's a great way as well. And some of the feedback I get from, you know, people who have also signed up is being able to share ideas with like-minded people, as well as the resources that you have there as well. So if this isn't something that you've signed up to, please go and take a look. It's a real game changer for you on this journey of becoming digitally inclusive and disability confident. And this is another one as well. So you may or may not have seen this before, but Microsoft internally have had this Accessibility in Action badge now for some time. But this year we were really excited to be able to release this to customers and to our Microsoft partners as well. So this is a badge that you can go in and take and earn. It's a great piece of training that we would love to see across the board. It doesn't matter where your employees sit, whether it's a marketing, HR, if it's sales, if it's customer services, going in and taking this particular piece of training is going to be absolutely beneficial to you and to your customers as well. So it's not long. I think it's about 2.5 hours long. There's knowledge checks along the way, but it is a great way to kind of start and get going on some of those key principles of accessibility and how we can all be doing more. So that's another one for you. And just to kind of really round that up for you, so absolutely, please do, as I said, go and look at that Disability Confident website. That this is all linked for you, and we'll get those out to you, I'm sure. Please go and have a look, take that Accessibility in Action badge and lead on that side of things. And then I've also just put in here some additional resources for you, some, you know, things like the Microsoft Accessibility website that you can go to, where you also go and find those conformance reports as well, find out more about what we're doing, what our partners are doing, how we're innovating, and that's everything. So thank you very much for listening. If there's any questions, I will do my best to answer them for you now, but I hope that's given you just a little bit of insight into the approach that we're taking, and how you can also work with Microsoft and Visual as part of that journey going forward.
So we haven't got any questions at the moment, Helen, but we'll give people just a couple of minutes. So if they do want to submit something, please just use the Q&A tab. And like Helen said, she'll try and answer as much as she possibly can. So we'll just give you a few more minutes.
Thanks, Ray. And if people, as well, if they would rather, then please feel free to contact me directly at helen.smith@microsoft.com, or alternatively you can find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, do feel free to, you know, ask away. Really appreciate that, you know, different organisations are really at different points of their journey. There's no stupid questions. If there is, I've certainly asked it over the last few years. So yeah.
So it looks like we haven't got any then, Helen. So I'm happy for you to wrap up. And then hopefully if people do have any questions, they can reach out to you directly.
No, that's fabulous. Thank you very much then all.